Welcome back to the first section about creating a strong foundation. In this lesson, we're going to dive deeper into creating the visual aspect of your branding. Your visual branding is much more than just a logo image. There are a lot of visual components to your brand. Think about everything that you put your logo on or anything that is designed to represent your brand or your products. Some examples include the fonts and colors that you use consistently when you are designing your visual components. Think about the labels or packaging for your product. Consider how your products are represented in your graphics, ads, print materials, and photos. And even how you display your products for sale is another opportunity to communicate your branding. So what exactly are you communicating visually? Well, there's a lot of psychology involved here. Your visuals are likely to trigger some thoughts, feelings, memories, emotions, which will make your customers feel a certain way about your product. I like to start with describing your brand personality and thinking how you want your customers to feel when they see your or use your products. So, do you want your brand to feel more playful or more professional? More edgy and modern, or maybe more traditional and classic? Do you want to be loud and spontaneous, or do you want to give a serene and calming effect? Is your goal to offer affordable products and solutions, or do you want to cater to a customer who wants a luxury product or an exclusive experience? Grab your workbook and think about the emotions that you want to evoke and the personality that you want to portray with your branding. Feel free to write even more descriptive words, emotions, or characteristics that you want to embody. Make sure all your ideas fit together nicely and don't contradict one another. Alright, now let's discuss your brand identity, which is mostly comprised of your logo design, fonts, and color scheme. Keep in mind the characteristics and descriptors that you just wrote down, and I'll explain how you can portray those with fonts and colors. The most important point I can express about your logo is that it needs to be flexible and readable. Ideally, you're going to have a couple variations for use in different applications. For example, you might have a more round or square version that fits well as a profile image or on a round jar or square label. And you might also have a more rectangular version that's like short and long width-wise that fits better in your website header or on banners or other rectangular spaces. You want it to be able to be printed very, very small, like on a business card. And you also want it to be printed very, very big, like on a vinyl banner or on the side of a vehicle. You also might have a text-only version, so if your main logo is comprised of like an image and text, you might have a text-only version for small applications where you see that the details would just get lost or be too difficult to read if you scaled it down really small. So you definitely want to have a couple different versions that you can use in different ways. Next up is fonts. Your font choices can really communicate a lot. So you want to choose wisely. Here are some examples so you can see how a typeface does or does not fit with a personality trait. These three are much more likely fitting than the rest. You can also see how capitalization, type treatments, and spacing can affect the personality as well. And here are some examples showing how certain typefaces would appeal to different groups of people. I love learning about color psychology and thinking about how different color palettes make me feel or bring up different memories or environments. So using the same examples as I did with the text, now you can see how different color palettes can enhance or contradict the personality and emotions that you're going for. So on the left here, the colors are a little bit too bright and too high contrast to get the right effect of elegant and luxurious. So a few tweaks to the color palette with more subdued colors really will elevate the design. Okay, in another example, going for a professional and traditional look, The bright and fun colors on the left just really don't fit, but the color palette on the right is much more stoic and traditional, giving a professional and trustworthy appearance. If you need a little further guidance when choosing a color palette and fonts for your brand identity, I do have a free brand design workbook that you can download and fill out, and it is linked below this video. So I highly suggest that you hire a professional designer when you can afford it, especially if you want to wholesale your products. Having a professionally designed brand will really elevate the perceived value of your product. Alright, so let's go on to labels and packaging. These help further reinforce your branding. The type of packaging and materials that can work in your brand message as well. So for instance, if your brand is going for a really eco-friendly vibe and earth-loving type of person, you wouldn't want to wrap your product in plastic. You'd also probably use natural materials or even recycled paper and soy ink. So for a clothing line, maybe your hang tags would be made out of paper that has wildflower seeds embedded in it and is perfectly compostable so that people could, go bury their tag in the garden and have flowers, something like that. So think of creative ways that you can reinforce your branding with your packaging. Again, if you have the goal to sell your products wholesale in a store or to really create a high value look, I strongly suggest that you hire a graphic designer for your labels. It's really important to have professional quality packaging or labels when it comes to appealing to retail shop owners or a really high-end target market. A professional design will really elevate your brand and will allow for a higher markup because of the perceived value. Your graphics and advertising will use the same fonts and color palette as your brand identity and your packaging. You definitely want to create a consistent look across the board. If you're using models and photographs for your ads or your graphics, you want to use people who look like they would be your ideal customer. So if you have kids products and your ideal customer is a mom, you would want to have kids and maybe even moms and kids in the ads. Your print materials, such as postcards, business cards, etc., should also match the rest of your branding. Plus, since these items are often containing more text, you can also use some of your brand messaging and your story as well. How you present or display your products with the intention of selling them says a lot about your brand. So the way you style your photographs and products can attract your ideal customer also. You can see how in this photo, this product would definitely attract a more feminine customer who likes floral scents. So if your brand message is all about pampering yourself, then this would be really appropriate. The product displays could be covered with fabric, perhaps tulle or lace, and there could be glass apothecary jars and cake plates to display all of the products on. If you're going for a no-nonsense, all-natural vibe with a unisex or manly customer, this type of photo would definitely be more appealing. The product is front and center with a no-frills background and only a single prop. So for merchandising, your product displays could be bare wood also. Going hand in hand with merchandising and photography is the entire experience that you create when someone is shopping for your products. Whether you sell at craft shows, in retail stores, or on your own website, you want to incorporate your branding into the entire shopping experience. Having your branding solidified will really help you narrow down the types of shops that you want to have your products for sale in. The same goes for narrowing down the type of shows or markets you'll attend, or even the design for your website. Alright, that's it for visual branding. In review, here are several pieces of your visual branding to think about. When you put it all together, you can create an entire visual branding guide. This should include your logo and variations, colors, and fonts at least. If you want, it could also include icons, graphics, materials, and more. Here's an example of the branding for my own handmade soap business. Having this visual branding guide and your ideal customer is like having a navigational compass for making all sorts of decisions. Once you have your ideal customer, You can easily determine if images, products, colors would be appealing to that customer. And when you need to make decisions about your visual designs or displays, you can ask yourself if it's going to fit in with the rest of your branding. It should be an easy yes or no. Does this fit? No. Don't use it. When you create your branding guide for your, you do this for your own personal reference. You might find photos on the web to serve as inspiration. Now, this document is for your reference only, not for public marketing. So in this case, it's okay to save images from around the web or Google or whatever. So just a heads up, these are not my photographs on the right, but they do serve as inspiration for the way that I would like to style my products. Now it's time for you to take some action. Feel free to use the workbook that accompanies this free mini course. Make sure that your branding is in alignment with your target audience and your brand personality. You may also want to consider if you're going to upgrade your logo or packaging in the future. Then, you want to collect your logo graphics, color codes for your branding, font names, and some images. You want to have all of this handy when you are ready to begin building your website.